In recent years, a new type of medication has begun to dominate conversations about weight loss. Mounjaro. Many people say it may be even more powerful than medications like Ozempic. Some studies show that people can lose a significant amount of weight in a relatively short amount of time. Appetite decreases. Blood sugar control improves. And the scale starts to tip down rapidly. For someone who has struggled with their weight for years, this seems like almost a perfect solution. But there's a question that few people ask before starting this type of treatment. What is really happening inside the body when these medications work? Yes, they can help with weight loss. They can improve glucose control. And in many cases they can also reduce insulin resistance. But that doesn't necessarily mean the original problem has been solved. In fact, many people discover something curious after using this type of medication for some time. The effect depends entirely on continuing to use the medication. When the medication is discontinued, the body often reverts to its previous pattern. And that raises an important question. Do these medications really correct metabolism? Or do they only control the symptoms while they are being used? There is another point that also needs to be considered. The cost. In many cases, this type of medication can cost between $1,000 and $1,300 per month. This means that, in order to maintain the effect, many people end up needing to continue using the medication for long periods. Now think of something interesting. If a treatment needs to be maintained indefinitely to continue working, it means that the original problem is still present. But there is an even more curious detail behind these medications. They don't create a new mechanism in the body. They simply mimic a system that already exists naturally within you. A system that regulates hunger, satiety, and blood sugar control. And when this system functions correctly, it can help the body maintain a much more balanced weight. Then a question arises that many people start asking. If the body already possesses this system naturally, is there a way to stimulate it without relying on expensive medication and without the potential side effects? Before answering that, we first need to understand how these medications actually work inside the body. Because when you understand this mechanism, you begin to realize something that few people can explain. And that's exactly what we're going to explore now. To understand why Mounjaro can have such a strong effect on weight loss, we need to look at two hormones that already exist naturally in the body. These hormones are GLP-1 and GIP. They are produced in the intestines whenever you eat. And they play an important role in controlling metabolism. When these hormones are released, three main things happen in the body. The first is that they send a signal to the brain telling you that you are satisfied. This helps to reduce appetite. The second is that they stimulate the release of insulin, helping the body to better control blood sugar. And the third is that they slow down digestion. When digestion happens more slowly, the energy from food is released gradually and the feeling of fullness lasts longer. This system was designed to help the body maintain energy balance. But here's an important detail. Many people today live with this system functioning in a reduced form. A diet rich in refined carbohydrates, excessive ultra-processed foods, little physical activity. All of this can interfere with how the body responds to these satiety signals. This is where medications like Mounjaro come into play. They mimic these natural hormones, but they do it much more intensely than the body would normally do. Instead of stimulating these signals only after meals, the medication maintains this active effect for a longer period. This reduces appetite, improves glucose control, and can lead to significant weight loss. But here's an issue that few people discuss. When the effect comes from an artificial stimulus, the body's natural system may remain weakened. This means that when the medication is stopped, the body can quickly revert to previous patterns. And that's why many experts say these medications need to be used continuously to maintain their effect. Now an interesting question arises. If these medications are simply mimicking hormones that already exist in the body, is there any way to stimulate these same hormones naturally? In other words, without relying on expensive medication and without dealing with potential side effects. There is an area of research called phytomycin. which studies natural compounds found in plants that are capable of influencing these same metabolic systems. Some of these substances are being studied for their ability to help control blood sugar and metabolism. If you'd like to learn about one of these natural options that many people use to support metabolism and glucose control, I've included a link in the description with more information. Now, back to the most interesting point. There are some natural compounds that researchers have been studying precisely because of their ability to influence these same metabolic pathways. Some of them come from extremely common plants, and they can act on different parts of the system that controls hunger and metabolism. But what exactly are these compounds and how do they work within the body? That's exactly what we're going to explore now. Now that you understand that medications like Mounjaro are basically mimicking hormones that the body already produces naturally, an interesting question arises. Is there any way to stimulate this system using natural compounds? That is precisely the idea behind a research area called phytomedicine. Phytomedicine studies compounds found in plants that can influence different systems of human metabolism. And when researchers began analyzing natural substances linked to glucose control and satiety, certain compounds started appearing repeatedly in studies. One of the best known is berberine. Berberine is a compound found in various plants and has been studied for its ability to help control blood sugar. Some studies suggest that it may improve insulin sensitivity and influence metabolic pathways related to energy control. Another compound that is studied extensively is curcumin, which comes from turmeric. Curcumin is primarily known for its anti-inflammatory properties, but its potential role in glucose metabolism is also being investigated. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the factors associated with insulin resistance, and reducing this process can help the metabolism function more smoothly. There is also an extremely common ingredient that many people have in their kitchen, cinnamon. Some research suggests that certain compounds in cinnamon may help improve the body's response to insulin and reduce sharp glucose fluctuations after meals. Another interesting compound comes from a plant widely used in traditional Asian medicine, ginseng. Certain varieties of ginseng are being studied for their potential impact on energy metabolism and how the body uses glucose. Now, an important detail comes into play here. None of these compounds act in the same way or with the same intensity as a medication like Mounjaro. The drugs were designed to produce a strong and direct effect on these hormones. Natural compounds, on the other hand, act in a much gentler and more indirect way, but there is an advantage to this process. When these compounds are part of a healthy lifestyle, they can help the body gradually restore the natural functioning of various metabolic systems. And it is precisely here that many people begin to notice something interesting. The greatest results rarely come from just a single element. They emerge when different strategies work together: proper nutrition, blood sugar control, improved insulin sensitivity, and it stimulates metabolism gradually. But there is an even more important factor than any natural compound. And interestingly, many people completely ignore this point. Because it doesn't come from a supplement, not even from a medicine. It comes from a simple adjustment in the way you organize your eating routine. And when this adjustment is applied correctly, it can directly influence the very hormones that these medications attempt to mimic. That's exactly what we're going to understand now. Now we come to a point that is often overlooked when the subject is weight loss, lifestyle. Many people look for a quick fix in a medication or supplement. But they forget that the system that controls hunger, satiety, and metabolism responds primarily to daily behavior. And one of the most powerful factors in this process is something called insulin sensitivity. When insulin sensitivity is good, the body is able to use energy from food efficiently. But when this sensitivity decreases, the body may have difficulty controlling blood sugar levels. This can lead to constant hunger, cravings for carbohydrates, and a greater tendency to accumulate fat. Now think about something important. If the problem begins with how the body responds to food, then the solution often begins with how that food is consumed. One strategy that many experts use is to reduce the consumption of refined carbohydrates and prioritize foods that keep blood sugar levels more stable, proteins, healthy fats, vegetables rich in fiber. This type of diet can help the body maintain more balanced glucose levels throughout the day. But there is another habit that can have an even greater impact: the time between meals. Many people today eat all day long: breakfast, snacks, lunch, more snacks, to have lunch, and often even a late-night snack. When the body receives food constantly, it almost never enters a state where it can use its own energy reserves. That's why some strategies like intermittent fasting are being studied. When a person concentrates their food intake into a smaller number of meals, the body spends more time using fat as an energy source. This can help improve insulin sensitivity and regulate appetite more naturally. Another extremely simple habit can greatly help in this process: take a walk after meals. A light walk helps the body use some of the glucose present in the blood. This can reduce sugar spikes and help the metabolism function in a more balanced way. And there is a third point that makes a huge difference over time: strength training. Muscles are one of the body's biggest energy consumers. When a person maintains a good amount of muscle mass, their metabolism tends to function more efficiently. And this becomes even more important as the years go by. Now think of something interesting. When diet, movement, and blood sugar control begin to work together, the body can gradually regain some of its natural ability to regulate appetite. But there is an extremely common mistake that many people make when trying to apply these strategies. And this mistake can slow down the metabolism even when the person is trying to lose weight. Let's understand exactly what this error is now. Now, there's a very common mistake that many people make when trying to lose weight. They drastically reduce calories. At first, this seems to make sense. If you eat less, your weight should drop faster. But the human body doesn't work exactly that way. When calorie intake drops drastically for extended periods, the body begins to adapt. It enters an energy conservation mode. Metabolism slows down. The body then uses less energy to perform the same functions. It's a survival mechanism that has existed for thousands of years. Think of metabolism as the engine of a car. Some engines consume a lot of fuel. Others can travel long distances with little energy. When someone goes through several restrictive diets throughout their life, the body can become extremely efficient at conserving energy. This means it can run on less fuel. But at the same time, this can make weight loss increasingly difficult. Now imagine what happens when someone uses a strong appetite suppressant medication, while their metabolism is already adapted to expending little energy. Weight may drop rapidly at first, but if the metabolism remains slow, maintaining this new weight can become a major challenge. That's why many people get into repeated cycles of weight loss and regain. They drastically reduce their food intake. The body adapts. Metabolism slows down. And when eating habits return to normal, weight is regained more easily. That's precisely why preserving muscle mass is so important. Muscle functions like a metabolic machine. The more healthy muscle mass a person has, the higher their daily energy expenditure tends to be. Strength training helps preserve this metabolic engine. And this can make a huge difference in how the body uses energy over time. Perhaps that's why so many people seek quick solutions for weight loss. But they ignore how their own metabolism works. Because ultimately, the human body already possesses very sophisticated natural systems for regulating hunger, energy, and body weight. When these systems function correctly, balance tends to occur much more naturally. Now I want to ask you a question. Do you think most people are just looking for quick weight loss solutions? Or are they truly trying to restore their metabolism's natural function? Write your opinion in the comments. And there is another extremely common habit that can slow down metabolism without many people realizing it. I explained exactly how this happens in another video on this channel. This video is definitely worth watching right now.